Yo, me again. Right, so I read Raymond Carver's Will You Please Be Quiet, Please. Did I like it? I really want to say yes, but I'll tell you what, I liked the beginnings of his stories, because, would you please be quiet, please? It is a book of short stories, just, if you didn't know. And so what you're going to get is, I think it's about 10 or 12 short stories. I'm not exactly too sure. There's a lot in there. And I love the way he begins. He uses the English language so simply and so well, so it's very easy to understand. There's no flamboyant words. It is what it is. It's very simple. It's very direct. It's very, very readable, very understandable. And I love the way he sets up every scenario, especially his first person stuff, and you get the feeling that as you go along in the stories you understand who the character is more and more. A lot of the time he's doing that within the scene, which is really awesome, and I found that my mind was slowly figuring out who this character was, rather than just being told immediately, this is a 21-year-old artist from Canada and he wears a hat every day. It just goes straight into the story. As you're reading, you figure, oh, he must be about 22. Oh, it's a guy. One of the stories, I think it was the first one, it's called Fat, and it's in first person, and he writes I all the time, and I just thought it was a man, and then about halfway through the story I understood, because the character walks into the bathroom and puts her hand on her stomach and imagines a baby inside her, and I thought to myself, that's not a man, that must be a woman. So, and then it becomes obvious next that the character's a woman, but the whole way through half of the story I was thinking it's a man, so I had to go back and read it again. You could say that was a bad thing, but I think it's really cool that he does that. The way that he sets the characters up and draws you, grabs you, just grabs your neck and just pulls you into the story, and you're in there and you're figuring it out, and it's gripping. I really loved it. Now, here's what I didn't like. Didn't like the endings. You know that I read Cathedral, and this is what got me into Raymond Carver, was this short story Cathedral. It's just absolutely freaking amazing. And the way that he ends it is just marvellous. So read Cathedral if you have not read it. I thoroughly recommend Cathedral. It's fantastic, and the way it ends is with this huge epiphany. There's a blind guy in there. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but the way that it ends, I love it, because it's the double meaning at the ending. And if you have read it, just go back and look at that double meaning, because I discussed this with a friend, and I think that is the character's revelation, the character's enlightenment, that he develops as a person. His mindset develops, and he becomes suddenly more compassionate, and all of that is in the ending of the story. It's a fantastic ending to a story, and I would love to replicate it. And I expected more of that when I read Raymond Carver, and I didn't get it, and so I was very disappointed, actually, because, like I said, he grabs you by the neck, he pulls you into the story, you're there, you're following it through, you're going, wow, what's going to happen? And then nothing happens. It just ends, and every one of them ends weirdly, or what's the word when it's just I'm supposed to be a writer, but sometimes I cannot think of words. Anticlimax. It's just an anticlimax, and you go, oh, I'm reading. Oh, disappointment. And by the end of the book, You know, like after I figured out that that's how he was going to end every story, I just kind of skimmed, read it, to be honest. I just went, you know, I'm not really into it. Like, I know, like, why should I get hooked in if, you know, he's not going to give me a good ending? So, you just don't. So, Raymond, you fucked up. Because, you know, if you can't fulfill the promise, don't set it up. That's the lesson for today. Take it how you will. So, what else? Yeah, let's just talk about that story, Fat. So obviously, I don't. When was Raymond? When was it written? Will you please? I'm pretty chill, you know, and I'm sorry that I didn't do my research before this video, but I'm just doing it on the fly, and you're gonna have to just bear with me. I mean, you could just turn it off if you want. Well, I think anyway, the computer's being slow. I think it was written in 1970 something, 1976. It was published. So I don't know if you'd get away with that now because you're talking about a fat person. So I mean, that could be considered quite offensive in today's current society. I think it might go down as a bit of an offensive story, an offence on people. Now, I personally don't mind it. I think take it how you want. I think if something offends you, get over it. But a lot of literature then is exactly that, would be filtered or not published because it was too offensive. So, yeah, I mean, do I think it's offensive? Yes. But do I think it should be published? Yes, because, you know, it's a piece of art and we all have the right to express whatever we want to express. Well, do we? Oh, I've entered into a huge debate and I really don't want to go there. I just want my own personal freedom of speech, to be honest with you. And I know some people are freaking crazy and say a lot of fucking weird shit. So some of it, you know, I don't think should be published. Do I think Fat should be published? Yes, I do actually think it's a piece of art. I genuinely do think it's a valid story, and I think actually that one has a very fantastic ending. Let's talk another one of his stories. Now, here's the thing. What a lot of people like about Raymond Carver, which I've noticed by doing some fishing around on the internet, is that they like the fact that he leaves a lot of it up to interpretation. There was a comment about Hemingway, who leaves a lot of his stuff, you know, it's like the reader gets the tip of the iceberg, and, you know, 9/10 or even more than 9/10, 90% of the story is actually underneath all of that. And some people like that style. I don't, because it's meaningless to me. Because if I have to read a story and interpret it for myself, I could interpret it however I wanted to. So the fact is that Raymond Carver sets all of this up, and there's millions of readers out there going, oh, what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? Well, then it means whatever you want it to mean. So if you have a limited perception, you will perceive it in a limited way. So, you know, I want literature to open my mind. I want literature to tell me something new. I want literature to implant a new perspective into my brain. And if everything is left up to interpretation, if I have a limited interpretation, I will see a limited story. So, you know, I feel that there is nothing that Raymond Carver can give which I don't already have. He's telling me a story which already will exist in my interpretation. What I want a writer to do is to give something new. And if everything is left up to interpretation, there's nothing new. So, that's why I don't like Raymond Carver.